Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you and we can see your screen.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Not as prepared as I'd like to be. I haven't actually had a chance to review what Sharyar sent me here, but I'm going to go with it. All right. Number of new tickets submitted since last meeting is 7. Number of open IT tickets waiting for programmer to work on is 26. Number of closed IT tickets closed since the last meeting by programmer is 5. Number of tickets waiting for approval required by champion is 0. Number of tickets pending review by champion is 1. Number of priority tickets closed since last meeting is 2. Number of closed tickets in the last 4 weeks is 14. Total number of new tickets in the last 4 weeks is 14. Going on with the reports that send out, I didn't get a chance on Saturday to check to make sure the automations were up, so they were down, so the reports didn't go out on time, although Adnan was nice enough to send them out this morning for me. So thank you, Adnan.
Yeah, welcome. Sorry for the late response.
So we have 3 priority tickets to go over with. We're going to start out with ticket number 26435. This is a new one that I put in today. On the P&L reports, remove the weekly breakdown and make it for just 1 month with the totals at the bottom. So if you remember, Adnan, when we did that, we had inside each month, we had it kind of broken down by weeks. I just want to go for each one just being for whatever month. So like July would just be anything that's from July 1st, July 31st. And rework that. I think actually simplifying it that way will make it easier, and I think the data's looking at it overall is much more accurate that way because you're seeing a better idea of what we're doing. Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yes, I got it.
Okay, the second one is ticket number 24974. And this is dealing with it's pending review also, and this is one that I've got to check to make sure that when I reject a part for a price increase, when it's accepted, that it's put in the date that it's accepted. This really comes down to, I haven't had a chance to make up one. I'm actually hoping that one that I've done comes back soon as an approval. So I'm just going to move on because I'm going to be hopeful that that works when I get to testing it. Next one is ticket number 25078. And this is asking to have a quote option put back into the costing app that is separate from basically an SO request. It would still be put in the SO request page, and it would still show up in my list of SO to review, because when I do a quote, I'm reviewing it basically the same way, but it's not going to be assigning it an SO number, and it's just going to be, sending out a quote to the person that requested it. Have you had a chance to even start on that one yet, Adnan?
Yes, I am. And I have a question for Anne. Anne?
I believe Ian's right here.
Yeah, what's up?
Okay. I guess you remember we implemented 919 recently related to shop order types while an SO request from the shop order types table. So from that perspective, there is no quote SO type in there. So if I manually add the quote SO type, so can I use the table I am using already?
I
Or
believe
do
that
I
Leo
need
and
to
I talked
create a
about.
separate
I
file?
believe, I believe Leo and I talked about this before. Where quotes and shop order requests and quotes are really two different things, right? They're not.
Correct.
Right. So this should be, realistically speaking, a separate module of the costing application, I imagine.
I think the biggest thing, Adnan, is I
Okay.
want it to show up in the SO review section to make it easier. But it's really a separate thing, and it should be as we go through it. When we get to like when I do the quote, and I type out what I want, because it's basically going to be, instead of assigning an SO number being the big thing, it's going to be a text field I fill out saying what the quote is, and it should be actually be sent out um, with a separate type of email, instead of being like an email that says SO such and such approved. It's going to be quote, you know we can still use whatever number the actual request was, is finished, or like that. Um, so there's more little things I'm going to have to submit tickets to fine tune that. But if we have to, I mean, we could even make a separate section for the quotes.
That's honestly what I would recommend, only because if we imagine a case where you're no longer doing costing, I think it's going to be very confusing for someone to have to go to the shop order request management screen to manage quotes. Right? I think that's a very confusing part of the app, from my perspective at least.
Yeah, and I mean, Ian, one of the things that I've started working on is I want to redo the interface for the costing and the quoting. I don't like the one that we have right now. It works, but I don't think it's intuitive. So that's something that, as I get time, I'm going to work on. Um, but I just had a thought I wanted to throw out. I mean, where these buttons are here, you know, this is the one where it says I review shop order requests. Would it be pretty easy to put like a number at it saying how many I had pending underneath
Yeah.
requests?
Yep.
So that way, if we also made another one that says, review quotes, we could do that, so that when I come to this, it's pretty easy to see what I have.
Yeah,
So,
you could absolutely do that. We do something similar to that in the IT projects. We do something similar to that, I think, in HR somewhere. We do it in a couple different apps. It shouldn't be too difficult.
so I think,
Yes, we can do that.
so then what I think I'm going to do is I'll put in another ticket for you to add a button for review quotes, and we'll make that whole quote a separate thing. It's not an SO request, it's a quote request, and we'll build it out outside of that system. But we're still going to have to run, for the part number, we're still going to have to end up doing all the background data crunching, so that I can, even though it's not going to be under here, I still want to have it where it comes up, and I can, I'm going to have to look at a part summary, and it comes up. So it's still going to function similar to what the SO request does, but it's not going to be the same.
Yeah, and as we
Okay.
refine that process, I'm sure
I
there's gonna be certain aspects of quoting that aren't going to apply to shop order requests. So having these two things separate will allow us to expand on those features more easily.
So
Okay, understood. Yeah.
so I understand that on this. I mean, you might be able to get the early framework there, but the quoting section is going to be a much longer drawn out process with multiple tickets coming to refine it. We'll probably start out pretty
Okay.
much, with a similar
Okay.
framework.
So yeah, I can do that. So, what about this current ticket? Is it still valid, or we need to rethink about it?
So the big thing is we need to have, if I need to put more tickets in for this, I can. We need to have on the, that's another one. So
So
Ian,
we still need.
So Ian, are you
We still
still,
need drop down.
say that again?
So do we still need to add the option in here when we submit a shop order request, or we can also do that in a separate section like we are discussing quote section? We can say like submit a quote.
So to be honest with you, now that we're talking about this, I'm rethinking from when I submitted that ticket. So we should have another button, submit quote, instead of shop order request. And then, we're also going to have to add a button for review quotes.
And Leo, I actually have a question here.
Okay.
So a quote is only for new parts, correct?
Incorrect.
Incorrect. Okay. So is it also for when reviewing price changes, I assume? Is that what that for too? Or like what is the natural life cycle of like a shop order? Does it go always from quote to request to, finish? Or is it sometimes just skipping the quoting process, or how does that work?
So most of the time, with regular customers, they send us a PO for what they want. And then if it comes to where we don't have anything in stock and we need to make the part number that the PO is for, the coordinator will submit a request for a shop order. And then I will review it to make sure our current pricing is okay for that. If it's not, then I will request an increase. Quoting is different customers will, like the big ones that we get quotes from for stuff we've already run is like Dresser-Ran and ITT. And they will, like, maybe they haven't bought the part in 3 years. They'll request a quote for so many pieces. And so then I'll do a quote. We'll send that price back to them. And then we may or may not get a PO from them for that part. If we do get a PO for that part, then the coordinator would need to request a shop order number. So they would
Okay.
submit a shop order request at that point.
So I guess my question to you would be, how do you want these things to link? So for example, when they submit a shop order request, should they be able to attach the previous quote? As in like, so for example, I can imagine a case where you go to submit a shop order request and there's a quote number drop down where you can select the quote that was submitted prior. That way the costing manager has more information about, oh, this is where this came from.
That's actually not a bad idea. I mean, because my vision is, the more automated it is, the better. And so yes, I mean, most of the time you won't need to add a quote number because it's just going to be repeat orders that.
Right.
But that would actually be really good. So like, we build a separate section where we do the quoting at it, assigns an actual number for it, and then the thing is, I'm trying to think now, how would the coordinator know that? I guess it would also, the next time that part number comes up, we can see the last time it was quoted, and we could ask the coordinator in the submission screen for an SO if this is from quote number.
Yeah, what I would do is probably just have you could do it one of two ways, right? You could have a drop down where it shows the quote number and then the description of the quote. So that way they would know exactly what that quote was for. Or you could have a grid below the submit shop order request that would have a grid that's populated by the last quotes that have been submitted for that part number, and they have the option to select one. Right. So a couple different ways you could handle that. But I just wanted to make sure that Adnan's aware that you're going to eventually want these two things to be linked. Right. The life cycle of a part might be quote to shop order request, to approval or denial, which, populates the shop order. Or the life cycle of a shop order might just be the request into the shop order, right? So there's like two paths shop orders can take.
And it really comes down to part numbers. This is all happening with different part numbers. So, we could get a request for a quote on a part number. I do the request. We get a PO for it. A year or two goes by where it's all just, they keep sending POs. And then all of a sudden they could send another quote request because, they want to make sure that price isn't going to change or for whatever. I only do quoting on parts that we've ran before. Right now, Rick Donahue does quotes on new parts. And that's, isn't tied into the costing app at all yet. But that doesn't mean a year or two down the road, when we've got more polish on the costing app, we might, try to build that into, to it too.
Yeah, and I'm more so concerned about, I can imagine a case where Rich asks someone, hey, I saw we had this request, or I saw we have the shop order. What was the quote for that? And it should be easy to find that. That's the problem I'm trying to solve here.
Right, and I agree with you. And then the one thing with like the quoting section that I'm talking about, and making it separate is, it's going to be documenting everything and make sure we have it saved. But it does need to interact with the SO section, because both a quote and an SO request is reviewing the part for the, what our pricing is. So the same calculations we run on an SO request would need to be run for a quote request.
And that's actually perfect, because then if we can link that shop order request to that quote, we can just pull that information back in, right? You don't need to fill it out a second time, right? At least I'd
Well,
imagine that's the case, unless something has changed between the time of the quote and the request.
I mean,
So,
for
and
like,
so
go ahead.
and we like we have a table for shop order request. So are we going to create a table for quotes and
Yes.
add that ID, link it with the shop order table?
Yes. And actually, it'll be linked the other way around. So basically, what you're going to have here, Adnan, is you're going to have, and Leo can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, 'cause I don't know if there's different types of quotes, or is there just a quote? Like with
It's
shop orders, you have like, FAI, you have, new, you have repair, rough. Do quotes have that too, or?
Quotes don't, I mean, a quote basically is a request from the customer for how much is it going to cost us to buy. Like, and generally speaking, they'll come in, hey, on part number 1, 2, 3, 4, I need a quote for 10 pieces.
Mhm.
All right. And then you could also get one for, part number 2, 4, 6. I need a quote for 10, 20, 40, and 80 pieces.
Okay, now that's neat. So I'm essentially what you're gonna need here, probably adding on, is a quote table and a quote details table. So the quote table will store the general information of the quote, when it was requested, who requested it, the number, stuff like that. Maybe the reviewer, if it's going to be Leo or somebody else. Then the quote details table will put things like the quantities, the price, so on and so forth. That way you can track, hey, this quote had a estimate for 10, 20, and 30 pieces, right? That way we can keep historical data on each breakpoint of the prices. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then on the shop order request, there will be a foreign key relationship to the quote table, not the details, but the quote table. That way we can pull in that information, but it'll be optional on the shop order request screen, because not every shop order request is going to have a quote associated to it. Hopefully that all checked out.
Yeah, got
That
it.
makes sense, Leo?
Yeah. And so, I mean, there's also situations like, for example, Ingersoll Rand. If I increase the price on that, they want price points.
Mhm.
How much for, how much for 100, 150, 200, and then what that price is. And, there can be a lot of variation, especially for lower produced parts, where we're only making, like if 10, 20, 30, 40, you could see a big swing on them. But, if you're quoting something, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, the prices are all going to be pretty close together.
Yep. And that's what that details table is going to be for, is holding your breakpoints and anything that's specific to like line items. I'm going to consider those price breakpoints to be line items.
But like I said, that is done on, some of the parts that, some customers, want to have that. So if you do a price increase, you got to do it by the price points. And I don't have that worked into the costing app yet, but that could be, actually should be put in there for both SO requests and quotes.
Oh yeah, so that actually could be something that we can do. So if we do it such that if we break it down the way I'm describing it, where you have like that main table and you have the details table, maybe in the shop order request they select the line item for the quote. So basically you can say, hey, I'm specifying that I want to make a shop order request for the 30 quantity breakpoint of that quote.
But that's not on all parts. The vast majority
that's
of our
fine.
parts is just one price.
Yeah, so what I'm saying there is that details for most parts will only have one record. It'll just be one price point. But it'll give you the option on other parts to have as many as you want. That's the point. So basically
So
what I'm trying to do is cover both things with just a single table, which you should be able to do just fine.
The big thing is I just want to get something in place so that they can, submit a quote and it's separated from the, SO request and then start building on that so that it and the SO requests have all these extra things that we're talking about.
Yep. So just to keep this in mind for the future, because this is a problem I have with Rich sometimes as well. It is the same amount of work to set up the costing to handle one price point as it is to set up 50 price points. However, it will be more work to change it from one price point to 50 price points in the future. So that's why I'm saying just do it correctly now because it's the same amount of work.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it'll be an absolute nightmare if you try to change it later. So.
Yep, I get that.
Yep.
So are you all confused now, Adnan, or you got it down pretty good?
I am good on this, Leo. If I have any question, I will reach out to him.
And we're going to need to put in probably, more tickets for the different points. So please reach out to me as to what you need. And then when I don't get it done, please remind me that you need it.
Okay, so the same question, what about this ticket now? Do you still want a drop down in the shopper requests module?
No, we're gonna go straight to. We're gonna create a new quote
Yes,
request.
if you I can if on the home page we can create like two sections, shop order request section and the quote section, and on the quote section we can say like submit to shop order request, or on the like all these buttons will be underneath those one single button.
Yeah, it's gonna. I mean, ultimately for quotes, right now I have the shop order request screen up. We're gonna have a quote request, and it's I'm gonna have to put tickets in for all this how I want it. But like we're not gonna need SO type, but we will need to set it up with like quote quantity or quote quantities where we can put multiple in.
Okay.
I'll have to get together and look at some example of quote requests to make sure I cover everything. But I will end up submitting some more tickets to cover all this. But this is something I want to get, in place quickly because right now, I'm getting a lot of quotes a week and they're getting mixed up into the actual costing. So that's, making some of my data not correct.
Okay, I will be doing it as priority in here.
Okay. Do you have any questions about anything else, Adnan?
No, I am good.
Okay, on our action items, Sharyard, the last one, Leo to check with HR to make sure new part coordinator has been assigned. Adnan took care of that for me, so we can remove that.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you. And if no one else has any questions, I'll let you go. And Ian, just a reminder to you, I need to talk to you sometime.
Yep. Also, reminder to you, there's an email going out between you, Jason, and I, and Rich. If you could reply to that at any point, that'd be great. And anytime this afternoon is fine for me if you want to have a meeting to talk about the IT stuff.
Yeah, it's a discussion I have to have with you.
Works for me.
All right, so if no one else has anything, I'll end the meeting.
Yep. Bye.
Have a good day.
Bye.